Have you ever stood in a once familiar room, a place filled with memories of laughter and lively chatter, only to find it silent? Have you ever looked at the faces of your loved ones and seen a gentle, almost imperceptible distance that wasn't there before? It's a haunting feeling, like watching a photograph fade in slow motion. For many, this creeping sense of isolation becomes an unwelcome companion in the later chapters of life. It's not a sudden event, but a gradual drift, a slow pulling apart of the tides that once held people close. The most heartbreaking part? We are often the unwitting architects of the very walls that separate us. This isn't a conversation about blame or judgment. It's an act of profound self-awareness and compassion. Growing older in America today is a complex journey, fraught with physical changes, emotional reckonings, and a society that often seems to be sprinting into a future we can barely recognize. It is completely natural that, in navigating these challenges, we develop coping mechanisms, habits forged in the fires of experience. Yet, some of these habits, adopted with the best of intentions or without any thought at all, can become invisible currents, silently pulling our most cherished relationships out to sea. This article is a deep, honest, and empathetic exploration of these subtle relational saboteurs. We will not just list them, we will dissect them, understand their psychological roots, and uncover the emotional impact they have on those we love. More importantly, we will illuminate a path forward, a series of small, manageable shifts in perspective and behavior that can dismantle these invisible walls and transform your presence from a burden to a cherished gift. This is about learning to grow older with not just dignity, but with grace, curiosity, and a connection so strong it can weather any storm. Let us begin this journey together, starting with a habit so common it has become background noise in many lives. 1. The draining cadence of constant complaint. Imagine sitting down for a weekly coffee with your dear friend, Eleanor. You look forward to it all week, a moment to connect and share. But as you settle in, the familiar cadence begins. The coffee is too bitter. The traffic was a nightmare. The young man at the counter was impolite. Her arthritis is acting up again. The politicians are all corrupt. And the price of eggs is simply criminal. By the time you part ways, you feel a profound sense of exhaustion, a heavy cloak of negativity draped over your shoulders. You love Eleanor, but you find yourself hesitating before picking up the phone to schedule next week's meeting. This is the subtle poison of constant complaining. Life, especially as we age, presents a legitimate and ever-growing list of grievances. Aches and pains become daily companions, financial worries intensify, and the world can feel bewilderingly different from the one we grow up in. Venting is a necessary and healthy release valve for these pressures. However, when venting ceases to be an occasional release and becomes a primary mode of communication, it fundamentally alters our relational dynamics. It transforms us from a person who has problems into a person who is a problem. The conversation is no longer a two-way street of shared experience, but a one-way monologue of misery. The psychological root often lies in a feeling of powerlessness. When we feel we can't change our circumstances, our health, our finances, the state of the world, complaining can feel like the only action we can take. It's a verbal fist shaken at an indifferent universe. It can also be a misguided bid for connection, a way of saying, "See how much I'm suffering. Please care for me." But the tragic irony is that it achieves the opposite. It drains the emotional energy of listeners, leaving them feeling helpless and weary. They can't fix your arthritis or lower the cost of living, so they are left with a lingering sense of inadequacy and a desire to avoid the source of that feeling, you. The antidote is not to embrace a false saccharine positivity. It is to consciously cultivate a balance. Try the gratitude sandwich technique. Start with something positive, share a genuine difficulty, and then end with another point of light. Or make a pact with yourself to share one small, simple joy for every complaint you voice. The taste of a fresh tomato from the garden, a kind word from a neighbor, a beautiful song on the radio. This small shift doesn't erase the hardships, but it reminds both you and your loved ones that your life is more than the sum of its troubles. It reminds them that within you there is still light, joy, and a spirit worth connecting with. That was the first subtle saboteur, a habit that can quietly corrode the foundations of our relationships. If you recognize the importance of shifting from a narrative of complaint to one of balanced gratitude, please comment with the number 1 below to affirm this crucial first step.
The Clinical Chronicle: When Life Becomes a Medical Chart. Let's step into the shoes of Michael, a devoted son who drives an hour every Sunday to visit his father. He yearns to hear about his dad's week, his thoughts on the new book he's reading, or his memories of coaching Little League. Instead, the conversation is a meticulous recitation of medical data. It begins with the morning's blood pressure reading, segues into a detailed analysis of his new cholesterol medication side effects, detours into the specifics of his upcoming podiatrist appointment, and concludes with a forecast of his seasonal allergies. Michael listens patiently, his love for his father unwavering, but he leaves feeling more like a medical resident than a son. The man he knows, the funny, insightful, vibrant person, is buried under a mountain of symptoms and prescriptions. This habit of turning every conversation into a health update is deeply understandable. As we age, our physical well-being naturally occupies a larger and larger portion of our mental landscape. Health challenges are real, frightening, and demand attention. Sharing these concerns with loved ones is a vital way to seek support and feel less alone. The danger arises when this medical monologue becomes the only topic. It inadvertently redefines our identity in the eyes of others. We cease to be dad, grandma, or friend, and become the one with the bad back, the one with diabetes, the one who had the surgery. This focus on illness can stem from a genuine need for empathy, but it can also be a way to process the fear and uncertainty that come with declining health. By verbalizing every detail, we may be attempting to gain some semblance of control over a body that feels increasingly unruly. However, for the listener, this constant stream of clinical information can be profoundly disempowering. It puts them in a perpetual state of worry and positions them as a helpless caretaker. They want to connect with you, the person, with all your passions, humor, and wisdom. When they are only offered the patient, the relationship becomes one-dimensional and emotionally taxing. They start to associate visiting you with the heavy atmosphere of a hospital waiting room. To counteract this, try implementing a conscious conversational structure. One effective method is the 2-minute rule. Allow yourself 2 minutes at the beginning of a catch-up to share any important health news. Then make a deliberate pivot. Ask a question about their life, their work, their children. Enough about my creaky joints. Tell me what you thought of that new movie you saw. Or, I'd love to hear more about that project you're working on at your job. This simple act signals that you are more than your ailments. It reopens the door to a multifaceted relationship, one where you are not just a patient to be managed, but a whole person to be known and loved. If these insights on balancing health talk with genuine connection have brought value to you, please support our community by hitting the like button, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell so you won't miss our future discussions. 3. The Fortress of Opinion: When Wisdom Becomes a Wall.
Harold, a retired engineer of 74, possessed a mind as sharp as a tack and a lifetime of experiences that had solidified into unshakable convictions. He loved his daughter, Susan, fiercely. So, when she decided to leave her stable corporate job to start a small online bakery, he saw it as his fatherly duty to intervene. What he intended as loving guidance, that's a foolish risk. The market is too saturated. You should have stuck with your pension, was experienced by Susan as a barrage of criticism. Every conversation became a battle of wills, with Harold defending the territory of his correct opinion. He didn't realize that with every word of advice, he wasn't building a safety net for her. He was building a wall between them until she eventually stopped sharing her dreams with him altogether. Having strong opinions is not a flaw. It's a testament to a life lived. You've witnessed history unfold, navigated economic booms and busts, and learned hard-won lessons about love, loss, and work. Your perspective is valuable. The habit becomes destructive when I believe hardens into I am right and you are wrong. When conversations are no longer a shared exploration of ideas, but a courtroom where you act as judge and jury, it chokes the life out of connection. It communicates a fundamental lack of trust in the judgment and capabilities of the other person, particularly those of a younger generation.
This tendency to become dogmatic often arises from the deep-seated desire to protect our loved ones from the mistakes we made or witnessed. It can also be a way of asserting our continued relevance and wisdom in a world that can make older individuals feel invisible or obsolete. If our opinions are unassailable, then we remain figures of authority and importance. Yet the outcome is tragically counterproductive. Instead of drawing people closer for guidance, it pushes them away. They learn that engaging with you means preparing for a debate or enduring a lecture. They stop sharing their vulnerabilities, their triumphs, and their true selves for fear of being judged or corrected. The solution lies in the humble art of curiosity. It's about shifting from the role of a lecturer to that of a consultant. A consultant listens first, asks clarifying questions, and offers their perspective as one option among many, not as the definitive answer. Practice using phrases that create space for dialogue. That's a fascinating way to look at it. Can you tell me more about why you feel that way? Or, from my experience, I've seen it go another way, but your situation might be different. What are the pros and cons you see? This approach validates the other person's intelligence and autonomy while still allowing you to share your hard-earned wisdom. It turns a potential conflict into a moment of connection, transforming your experience from a weapon into a gift. Have you ever been in a situation like Harold's or Susan's? We invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your insights on navigating these challenging conversations could be incredibly helpful to others in our community. 4. The shadow of neglect, the unspoken message of personal hygiene. This is without a doubt one of the most sensitive and difficult subjects to address, yet its importance cannot be overstated. A caregiver once shared a heartbreaking story about her father, a man who had always been impeccably dressed and proud of his appearance. In his late 70s, following the loss of his wife, he began to neglect himself. His teeth went unbrushed, his clothes were often unwashed, and a stale odor clung to his home. She loved him dearly, but she admitted that sitting close to him, giving him a hug, became physically difficult. The neglect was a silent, heartbreaking barrier that made true intimacy almost impossible. Neglecting personal hygiene is rarely a conscious choice. It can be a profound symptom of depression, grief, or overwhelming loneliness. The energy and motivation required for daily rituals, like showering, grooming, and laundry, can feel monumental when one is battling internal demons. For some, physical limitations like arthritis or poor balance can make these tasks genuinely difficult and even dangerous. However, it's crucial to understand the message that, however unintentionally, this neglect sends to the outside world. Personal hygiene is not merely about vanity. It is a fundamental act of self-respect. It is a nonverbal declaration that says, I matter. I still care about myself and how I present myself to the world. When this basic self-care fades, it can signal to others a profound sense of having given up. A visitor who enters a home filled with the smell of stale air or who recoils from an unkempt appearance may not say a word out of respect or fear of causing offense, but the experience is registered. They may shorten their visits. They may find excuses not to come over. It's not a judgment of the person's character, but a natural human reaction to an environment that feels unhealthy and sad. It creates a physical and emotional distance that compounds the very loneliness that may have caused the neglect in the first place. If you recognize this pattern in yourself or a loved one, the first step is to approach it with immense compassion, not shame. It may be a sign that deeper issues, like depression, need to be addressed with professional help. Practical solutions can also make a world of difference. Maybe it's a shower chair to make bathing safer, a laundry service to ease the burden of chores, or simply setting a small, achievable goal for each day. Today I will brush my hair and put on a clean shirt. These are not just tasks, they are acts of reclaiming dignity. They tell the world, and more importantly, they tell yourself, I am still here. I am still worthy of care. I respect myself. That simple message is one of the most powerful invitations for others to draw closer. Acknowledging this sensitive topic is an act of courage. If you agree that maintaining self-respect through personal care is vital, please show your support by commenting with the number 4.
The Museum of the Mind. The Peril of Living in the Past. There is a unique and irreplaceable beauty in reminiscing. Sharing stories of your first love, the summer you spent working on a farm in rural Ohio, or what it felt like to watch the first moon landing on a grainy black and white television. These are threads of gold that weave the tapestry of a family's history. They connect generations and bestow a sense of legacy. The danger emerges when the past is no longer a place we visit for its beauty and wisdom, but a place where we permanently reside. When every conversation inevitably circles back to the good old days, it leaves precious little room for the present. Imagine a grandmother whose grandson, a budding digital artist, eagerly tries to show her his latest creation on his tablet. Instead of looking at the screen, she launches into a lengthy story about how, in her day, art was made with real paint and canvas, and how much better and more authentic it was. The grandson's shoulders slump. His moment of shared excitement has been usurped by a comparison that implicitly devalues his world and his passion. He learns that Grandma isn't interested in his life, only in using his life as a springboard back into her own. This habit of living in the past can be a refuge from a present that feels alienating, or a future that seems daunting. The past is a known quantity. Its joys are crystallized, and its sorrows have been softened by time. It feels safe. In contrast, the present is chaotic, fast-paced, and filled with technology and social norms that can be hard to grasp. Retreating to memory lane is a way of staying grounded in a world that feels like it's slipping away. However, this retreat comes at a high cost. It signals to your children, grandchildren, and friends that their current lives, their new jobs, their modern music, their digital hobbies are less interesting and less valid than what came before. It closes the door on shared experience. They want you to be a part of their world, to understand their struggles and celebrate their victories in the here and now. If you only ever talk about how things used to be, you are missing the incredible opportunity to see how things are. The key to breaking this habit is to consciously practice presence and curiosity. For every story you tell from your past, make it a goal to ask 2 questions about their present. That reminds me of my first car. What's your favorite thing about the car you drive now? Or, it's amazing what you can do on that little screen. What part of creating that art made you feel the most proud? This simple exchange builds a bridge between your world and theirs. It shows them that you see their lives as vibrant and important, and that you want to be more than a curator of your own personal history. You want to be an active, engaged participant in the continuing story of their lives. This point about being present is so foundational to healthy relationships at any age. If you agree that bridging the past and present is essential for connection, show your support by commenting with the number 5. Let's make a commitment to stay curious about the lives of our loved ones. 6. The generational divide. The trap of criticizing the young. Kids these days. It's a phrase that has likely been uttered in some form or another since the dawn of civilization. Every generation looks at the one that follows with a degree of bewilderment. Their music seems like noise, their fashion is bizarre, and their communication, often glued to glowing rectangles, can feel like an alien language. It's a natural cycle. But when this bewilderment sours into constant criticism, it becomes a powerful corrosive agent in intergenerational relationships. When a grandfather only ever comments on his granddaughter's ripped jeans, or a mother constantly laments how her son is always on that phone, the message received is one of blanket disapproval. The young person doesn't hear, "I'm concerned about you," or "I don't understand this." They hear, "You are wrong. Your world is wrong. Your way of being is wrong." After hearing this enough times, they simply stop listening. Why would they seek the company of someone who seems to view their entire existence as a collection of flaws?
The root of this critical stance is often fear and a sense of displacement. The world is changing at an exponential rate, and it can feel like the values and skills that defined your life are becoming obsolete. Criticizing the new ways can be an unconscious attempt to defend the old ways, to assert the enduring value of one's own life experience. It's a way of saying, "My way was better, and therefore I am still relevant." But in reality, it burns the very bridges you wish to maintain. Remember, your parents likely thought your music was too loud, your politics were radical, and your lifestyle was irresponsible. This is the timeless dance of generations. The most effective way to engage is not with judgment, but with a genuine effort to understand, and where understanding fails, to simply accept. Instead of pointing out what you perceive as wrong, try to find something to admire. Tell your grandson his creativity with technology is impressive. Tell your granddaughter her passion for social justice is powerful. Acknowledge her resilience in a world far more complex than the one you navigated at her age. Building these bridges is infinitely more rewarding than guarding the ramparts of your own generation. It requires humility and the willingness to admit that you don't have all the answers. It opens you up to learning from the young, to seeing the world through their fresh, unjaded eyes. And in doing so, you don't just preserve a relationship, you enrich your own life, keeping your mind flexible and your heart open to the endless evolution of the human story. Do you have any similar experiences with this generational gap? Don't hesitate to share your story in the comments section. We'd love to hear how you've bridged the divide. 7. The well-meaning intrusion, gossip and meddling. In a quiet cul-de-sac in a Florida retirement community, news travels fast. It can be tempting, even entertaining, to discuss who's dating whom, whose children are having marital problems, or why the new neighbors are re-landscaping their entire yard. This seemingly harmless chatter, or gossip, can feel like a way to stay connected and informed. Similarly, there's meddling. Consider Maria, a loving mother who, upon visiting her son and daughter-in-law, can't help but suggest they rearrange their furniture for better flow, advise on how to discipline their toddler, and inquire pointedly about their savings plan. She means well. Her heart is filled with a desire to help and improve their lives. But both gossip and meddling are two sides of the same destructive coin.
They are violations of trust and boundaries. Gossip chips away at your own integrity. When you speak about others behind their backs, the people listening to you are left to wonder what you say about them when they're not in the room. It creates an atmosphere of suspicion, not camaraderie. Meddling, even when cloaked in love, is an intrusion. It sends the message, "I don't trust you to manage your own life. I know better." For Maria's son and daughter-in-law, her helpful suggestions feel like a vote of no confidence in their abilities as adults, parents, and partners. This breeds resentment and causes them to erect emotional walls, sharing less and less of their lives to avoid the next round of unsolicited intervention. The drive to meddle often comes from a deep-seated need to feel useful and important, a need that can become more acute when one is no longer in the workforce or raising young children. The drive to gossip can stem from boredom or a desire to feel part of an in-group. The solution to both lies in a profound respect for the autonomy of others and the cultivation of inner peace. The wisdom of aging is not knowing how everyone else should live their lives, but knowing when to remain silent. It's understanding that if your advice is truly needed and valued, it will be sought. Let people make their own mistakes and celebrate their own victories. Your role can shift from that of an intrusive manager to a trusted, safe harbor, the person they know they can come to for non-judgmental support if and when they ask for it. This peace is far more valuable than the fleeting thrill of being in the know. Comment with the number 7 below if you agree that respecting personal boundaries is one of the highest forms of love and respect we can offer.
The closed door. Refusing to adapt and learn. Robert, a proud 78-year-old, took a certain defiant pleasure in his refusal to engage with modern technology. "I have a landline and that's all I need," he'd say. "I don't need one of those smartphone contraptions." Meanwhile, his children and grandchildren were living their lives in a digital world. A family group chat, buzzing with daily jokes, photos of the dog, and quick updates became their primary way of staying in touch. His granddaughter's college graduation was live-streamed. His son sent him a link to an online photo album of their family vacation. Robert was missing it all. His refusal wasn't just a choice to live simply, it was a choice to be left out. In a world that changes at lightning speed, refusing to adapt can feel like a noble stand for a simpler time. The onslaught of smartphones, online banking, QR codes, and social media can be genuinely overwhelming. However, framing this as a complete refusal to learn is like locking a door and throwing away the key. It doesn't stop the world from moving forward, it just traps you on the other side. Technology is no longer a novelty. It is the primary infrastructure for modern connection. The resistance often stems from fear. Fear of not understanding, fear of looking foolish, fear of being scammed. There's also a layer of pride, an unwillingness to be a novice again after a lifetime of being an expert. But the consequence is a slow, creeping isolation. You become dependent on others for simple tasks, and more tragically, you miss out on the rich, spontaneous moments that now happen digitally. Imagine the joy of seeing your grandson score a goal in his soccer game via a video call, or receiving a text message with a photo of a blooming rose from your daughter's garden. The antidote is to reframe learning not as a chore, but as a bridge to your loved ones. You don't need to become a tech wizard. Start with one thing. Ask a grandchild to set you up with a tablet specifically for video calls. Take a basic computer class at the local library, as one 82-year-old woman did, only to discover a passion for playing virtual chess with her nephew across the country. She said it made her feel young and connected again. The world won't slow down for us, but by taking small, courageous steps, we can keep walking right alongside it, hand in hand with the people we love.
If you found value in these discussions about growth and connection, we'd be honored if you'd subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more insightful content. The heavy cloak of victimhood. My children never visit. Nobody ever calls me anymore. I suppose everyone's just too busy for me. These are sentences heavy with pain and loneliness, and that pain is undeniably real. The feeling of being forgotten or neglected is one of the most profound sorrows of the human experience. However, when this genuine hurt curdles into a persistent victim narrative, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This habit isn't about the feeling of loneliness itself, but about the passive, accusatory way it's expressed. When you say, "nobody ever calls," you are not just stating a fact. You are leveling a charge. You are placing the full weight of responsibility and blame on the other person. The listener, perhaps your son or daughter, who is juggling a demanding job and their own family, hears this not as a plea for connection, but as a guilt trip. Their natural reaction is defensiveness or a sense of helpless failure. They feel that no matter what they do, it will never be enough. This feeling of perpetual guilt is not an enticement to call more often, it's an emotional burden that makes them want to pull away, to escape the feeling of inadequacy. This mindset often grows from a place of genuine powerlessness and deep-seated loneliness. It feels safer and easier to wait for the world to change, for others to make the first move, than to risk the vulnerability of reaching out oneself. What if you call and they're busy? What if you invite someone over and they say no? The potential for rejection is frightening. So we wait, and in that waiting, a narrative of blame can take root.
The most empowering and transformative shift one can make is from a passive stance to a proactive one. Instead of waiting for the phone to ring, be the one who picks it up. Instead of lamenting that no one visits, be the one who invites a neighbor for a cup of tea. Call a friend just to say hello, with no expectation other than to hear their voice. Send a birthday card. This isn't a sign of weakness or desperation. It is an act of profound strength and self-determination. It is taking control of your own social well-being. It changes the dynamic from "you owe me" to "I value you," which is the very foundation of all healthy, joyful relationships. If this shift from a passive to a proactive mindset resonates with you, please comment with the number 9. It's a powerful step toward reclaiming your own happiness. 10. The golden handcuffs, financial control. Money is one of the most complex and emotionally charged topics in any family. As you age, having worked hard and saved, there's often a natural and generous impulse to help your children and grandchildren. You want to ease their burdens, perhaps by helping with a down payment on a house, contributing to a college fund, or covering an unexpected emergency expense. This generosity can be a beautiful expression of love. But it turns toxic when the financial support comes with invisible strings attached, becoming a tool for control. Consider the elderly father who gave his son a significant sum to start a business. The gift was a lifeline, but it came at a cost. Now, every family decision is subject to the father's input. "After all I've done for you, you'd think you'd consult me before making that hire." Or, "I helped you build this, so I have a right to an opinion on your marketing budget." The son, once grateful, now feels trapped. The gift has become golden handcuffs, and his father's love feels conditional and transactional. He feels a constant pressure to perform and a simmering resentment that sours their entire relationship. They stopped visiting not out of greed, but out of a desperate need to escape the guilt and emotional manipulation. This habit often stems from a fear of losing influence. As children become independent adults, a parent's role naturally changes.
Using money can be an unconscious way to maintain a sense of authority and centrality in their lives. It's a way of saying, you may not need my parenting anymore, but you still need my resources, so you still need me. The healthiest principle for financial generosity is to give with a full and open heart, or not at all. A true gift is given freely, with no expectation of repayment, control, or even a specific form of gratitude. Once the money leaves your hand, it is no longer yours to manage or leverage. If you are not comfortable with that, it is better to offer a loan with clear agreed-upon terms, or to simply not give the money. Untangling love from financial obligation is essential for maintaining relationships built on mutual respect rather than debt. Love that is pure is a gift. Love that is tied to money becomes a transaction, and transactions have no place in the sacred space of family. This is a delicate but crucial point. Please comment with the number 10 if you believe that true generosity must be free from emotional strings. 11. The prideful barrier, refusing help. I've got it. Don't worry about me. I can manage. These phrases, spoken with a stiff upper lip, are often seen as signs of strength and independence, virtues we hold dear in American culture. It is incredibly difficult, after a lifetime of being capable and self-reliant, to admit that you need help. Yet, consistently refusing offers of assistance can inadvertently build a wall around you, shutting out the very people who want to connect. Imagine an elderly woman, Margaret, struggling to carry a heavy bag of groceries up her porch steps. Her granddaughter rushes to help, saying, "Grandma, let me get that for you." Margaret swats her hand away, insisting, "I'm not helpless yet." The granddaughter backs off, feeling rejected and a little hurt. She wasn't trying to call her grandma helpless, she was trying to express love through a simple act of service. When her offer is rebuffed, the message she receives is, "I don't need you," or even, "Your help is a nuisance." After a few such rejections, she may stop offering, not because she no longer cares, but to avoid being pushed away again.
The fierce desire for independence is the primary root of this habit. We fear that accepting help is the first step on a slippery slope toward losing our autonomy, of becoming a burden. Pride is a powerful force, and it tells us that needing help is a form of failure. However, a crucial reframing is needed. Allowing someone to help you is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of connection and grace. It is a gift you give to the other person. People, especially those who love you, have an innate need to feel useful and to express their care in tangible ways. When you let your son mow your lawn, when you let your neighbor drive you to a doctor's appointment, you are allowing them to fulfill this need. You are telling them, "Your care matters to me. You are a valuable part of my life." This creates a beautiful reciprocal flow of giving and receiving that strengthens relational bonds. Pride keeps people at arm's length. Vulnerability and the grace to accept help bring them in close. Let's all practice this. If you are committing to graciously accepting help as an act of connection, please comment with the number 11 below. 12. The joyless void, losing your sense of humor. Life is serious. As we age, the weight of it can feel heavier than ever. Illness, grief, financial worries, the loss of friends. It is completely understandable that laughter might not come as easily as it once did. But when we lose our sense of humor entirely, when we can no longer laugh at life's absurdities, or, most importantly, at ourselves, our presence can become heavy and draining for others. A joyful spirit is magnetic. A joyless one can be deeply repellent. Think of two people in a retirement home. One complains constantly about the food, the staff, and his aches and pains. The other, facing similar challenges, is known for her quick wit. She once joked, "I may be wrinkled on the outside, but on the inside, I'm still spicy." Who do you think has more visitors? Who do people want to sit with at dinner?
Laughter is a shared release. It doesn't erase the hardships, but it lifts the weight for a moment, creating a pocket of light and air in a room that might otherwise feel suffocating. It reminds everyone, including yourself, that despite everything, there is still joy to be found. Losing one's humor is often a symptom of being overwhelmed by life's difficulties. It's hard to find things funny when you're in chronic pain or deep in grief. It's not about forcing yourself to be happy, but about consciously choosing not to let solemnity be your only state of being. The solution is to actively look for the light. Make it a point to watch a funny movie or a comedy special. Share a silly joke you heard. Learn to smile at your own small foibles, like when you can't find your glasses and they're on top of your head. This ability to find levity doesn't deny the reality of your struggles. It demonstrates a powerful resilience in the face of them. It makes you a source of warmth and life. People are drawn to those who make them feel alive, and nothing does that quite like a shared heartfelt laugh. It's a powerful reminder that the heart can stay young, vibrant, and spicy, no matter what the calendar says. What's a short, funny story that made you laugh recently? Let's spread some joy by sharing in the comments. 13. The final straw: giving unsolicited advice. This final habit is perhaps the most subtle and the most frequently born from pure love, which makes it all the more insidious. It is the habit of giving constant, unsolicited advice. It's different from being opinionated, habit number 3, which is about being dogmatic. This is the endless stream of "you should" and "what you need to do is" that greets every problem someone shares. Your adult daughter calls, stressed about a conflict with her boss. She's looking for a listening ear, for someone to say, "Wow, that sounds really difficult. I'm so sorry you're going through that." Instead, you immediately shift into fixer mode. Okay, first, you need to document everything. Then, you should schedule a meeting with HR. And you shouldn't have said what you said. What you should have done is... While your intentions are to help and to share your wisdom, you have completely missed the point. You have steamrolled her emotions and invalidated her need to simply be heard. She didn't ask for a strategic plan. She asked for empathy. She hangs up the phone feeling not supported, but criticized and incompetent.
This drive to fix comes from a place of deep caring. We see our loved ones in pain, and our experience tells us we have the solution. It's incredibly difficult to sit with someone's discomfort without trying to alleviate it immediately. Offering advice feels productive and loving, but the most profound form of support is often not a solution, but a presence. It's the art of listening to understand, not to reply. The key is to wait for the magic words. What do you think I should do? Until you hear that question, your primary role is to be an emotional safe space. Practice validating feelings first. That sounds incredibly frustrating. I can see why you're so upset. I'm proud of you for how you're handling such a tough situation. 9 times out of 10, that's all the person needs. That simple validation builds more trust and intimacy than 1,000 well-intentioned but unsolicited pieces of advice. It tells them, I trust you to handle this, and I am here with you while you do. When they do ask you for advice, it will be received not as criticism, but as the precious gift it is meant to be. This is perhaps one of the most transformative skills we can learn in any relationship. If you are committing to becoming a better listener who offers empathy before solutions, please affirm it by commenting with the number 13. Conclusion. From invisible walls to open bridges. Growing older is a privilege, a journey through seasons of change that asks for our resilience, our wisdom, and our grace. As we've explored these 13 habits, a common thread emerges. Each one in its own way is a misguided form of self-protection that inadvertently builds an invisible wall. Complaining protects us from feeling powerless. Living in the past protects us from a confusing present. Refusing help protects our pride. Giving advice protects our loved ones, or so we think. But every one of these walls, built brick by silent brick, ends up creating the very isolation we dread. The beautiful truth is that we hold the power to dismantle them. It doesn't require a personality overhaul overnight. It begins with one small conscious shift. It's the decision to share one small joy today. It's the choice to ask a curious question instead of stating a firm opinion. It's the grace to accept a small offer of help. It's the patience to just listen. These are not just habits to avoid, they are invitations to a different way of being. A way that chooses connection over control, curiosity over judgment, and empathy over ego. This is how we transform our presence from a potential burden into a cherished gift. This is how we ensure that as we age, we grow not just older, but closer to those who make the journey worthwhile. After all of this analysis, what is the most important lesson you've learned for yourself? What is the one small, actionable step you will take, starting today, to nurture your most precious relationships? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your journey inspires us all. Thank you for joining us in this deep and honest conversation. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.